Hi, I'm Dr. Lynn. I'm going to share a few tips and stretches for groin pain. When you have groin pain, oftentimes the tendency is to want to stretch the front of the hip to try to relieve what feels like tightness there. But sometimes there's some underlying factors that haven't been addressed. One common thing is that the ball part of the hip joint is sitting too far forward in the socket and pinching against the front rim of the socket. If this is true for you, your therapist may have noted that you have decreased internal rotation. So before stretching your hip, you'll want to make sure that the ball is seated a little bit further back in the socket and nice and centered. So that way, when it moves in the socket, it's moving right in the center and not pinching or rubbing against that front rim and creating groin pain. So here's a simple muscle energy technique that you can do to slide the ball back in the socket. Okay. This exercise is from the Postural Restoration Institute and is called the 90-90 hip lift and shift. So you're going to start with your legs up on a chair or a couch and scoot your butt close enough that your hips and knees are at about a 90-degree angle. You can put a towel roll between your knees, or if you have a small ball like this, you can also squish that between your knees just to help keep your legs well aligned in a parallel position. Dig your heels down into the surface. Use your back of your thighs to roll just your tailbone up off the mat. Your low back should be relaxed on the floor, just your tailbone is off the surface. Imagine there's a down arrow on your left thigh and an up arrow on your right. Slide your left thigh down and glide the right thigh up. Take a peek, your right knee should look a little taller. Really dig that left heel down and into the surface, feeling your left hamstring work. Keep that feeling and lift the right foot off. Now you should really feel that left hamstring working. Breathe through it. 3 deep breaths. And then relax and come back to your starting position. So using the energy or contraction of that left hamstring to glide the thigh downward and shift that ball back in the socket. Let's try it on the right now. Okay, first you're gonna start symmetrically. Dig both heels down into the surface. Curl just your tailbone up, just the back of your buttocks is clear, but your low back is relaxed. Now the down arrow is on your right thigh, up arrow on the left. Shift the right thigh down and glide the left thigh up. Now your left knee should look a little taller. Really dig down to that right heel. Feel this hamstring fire on the right side. Keep that feeling and lift the left side off. But don't let that left knee drop. Left knee's reaching for the ceiling, right thigh's gliding down. And breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Foot down and relax. You want to repeat this on each side 5 times, holding for 3 deep breaths. Okay, now that your hip should be a little bit more centered, let's do a few stretches to help release muscle tightness in the front of the hip. First, we're going to do a lunging hip flexor stretch. Put your right knee down, step your left foot forward. Tuck your buttocks, squeeze your buttocks and press your pelvis forward. Feel the stretch in the front of your right hip. Don't push to the point of pain. If it hurts, back off a little bit. Bring your left forearm to your left thigh. Reach your right arm up and overhead. Breathe deeply. Let the front of your right hip relax. And give it a rest. Now we're going to add a little more rotation to this hip flexor stretch. Reach both arms forward, staying in your lunge position. Reach your right arm back like you're pulling a bow and arrow back. Look towards your back fingertips. And take deep breaths, relaxing into the front of your right hip and letting it open. And switch sides. Now your left knee is down, right foot steps forward. Tuck your tailbone, squeeze your butt, press your pelvis forward. Now you should be feeling a stretch on your left front hip. Right forearm to right thigh. Reach your arm overhead. Breathe into it. Back off a little bit and now add rotation. Reach both arms forward. Pull the left arm back. Open to the side. Keep squeezing your left butt so you're lunging forward a little bit and breathe into it. And take a break. For this one, you'd want to do it at least 3 times on each side for about 30 seconds or 3 deep breaths. Another important muscle group to stretch is the inner thigh muscles, your adductors, because these can also contribute to the ball being pulled too far forward and inward in the socket and create some pinching here. So now we're going to do a kneeling side lunge stretch for the inner thigh. So kneel on your left, bring your right foot to the side with a straight knee. Come forward onto your hands and then roll your hip forward and back. You should see some movement in your foot. So I'm sinking my butt back a little bit, letting my toes point up a little bit, and then shifting my pelvis forward and letting my toes come to the ground. When you find your tightest point, stop there and take at least 3 deep breaths, holding for about 30 seconds. Go ahead and try it on the other side. So kneel on the right, stick your left leg out to the side, come down onto your hands, shift your butt back, let your toes point up to the ceiling, shift your body forward, let your toes come to the floor, find your tightest spot, and when you find it, pause, melt into it, and take at least 3 deep breaths, holding for 30 seconds. Great job. I hope you find these helpful and keep at it. It usually takes at least several weeks to really loosen up your hips and to stop the groin pain. Also talk to your physical therapist about what strengthening exercises you should be doing to help keep that ball centered in the socket.